The first system that we're going to work on is Tr0ll. You may recognize this if you took my first course in the Hands-on Penetration Testing Lab series, in which I covered Tr0ll and Tr0ll. Since I had a lot of fun with those, I wanted to go ahead and include this one in my new course. Go ahead and double-click the Tr0ll3.ova file. You can get this from my Google Drive. If you don't have it yet, please go back to the previous lecture, which covers downloading the vulnerable virtual machines that we'll be using for the remainder of this course. So double-click the OVA file. That's going to launch your VirtualBox Manager. If you do not have VirtualBox, please go ahead and download the most recent version off of virtualbox.org. So now we're going to click Import. Once the import is done, make sure that you have your settings correct for Tr0ll3. So right-click Tr0ll3, click on Settings. Now go to the Network tab. All right, it is currently set to Bridged Adapter. We want to set it to Host-Only Adapter. This is going to allow us to use an internal local area network to communicate to and from the Kali Linux VM. So that's all we need. We do not need internet connectivity with this vulnerable VM. So click OK. With Tr0ll3 highlighted, click Start. Now, if you do not have your Kali Linux VM on yet, you want to go ahead and start that up as well. If Tr0ll3 booted up properly, this is the prompt that you're going to see. It says, "Are you sure you want to do this? Log in, start, here." So this is a piece of information that could be potentially useful. Possibly a username and a password. It could be nothing. But let's just remember that and go over to Kali Linux. Go ahead and open up a terminal. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do in all of these challenges is to find the IP address of the target machine. Since we're in a local area network in the host-only interface, we're going to be able to use net discover. So I'm just going to show you real quick. This is the host-only interface for my Kali Linux VM. If you are using the Kali Linux VM that I provided in the course, you will see something similar to this. Otherwise, you can use your own Kali VM, but if you have any issues connecting, you can go ahead and just use the one I have set up for you. So we have ETH1, which has the IP address of 192.168.56.149. And we are going to use that to connect to the Tr0ll3 VM. So let's just clear that out. Type in net discover -i ETH1. That's going to be using that interface, which is the host-only interface, and we're going to search for the IP address using ARP, or Address Resolution Protocol. As you can see here, the IP address was discovered. If you're wondering what .1 and .100 are, the .1 is the IP address assigned to the host system, and the .100 is the IP address of the virtual DHCP server. These IP addresses are always going to be here in VirtualBox regardless of what systems are connected to the local area network, so just ignore them going forward. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy that IP address here. Now let's use an Nmap scan in order to see which ports are open. We're going to be using an Nmap scan with the -A switch, which is going to enable OS detection, version detection, script scanning, and traceroute. So I'm going to type Nmap -A and the IP address, which I just copied from the net discover results. So just press enter and wait for a little bit for that to finish. As you can see, there's only one port open, which is the common port for Secure Shell or SSH, port 22. This is not usually an easy protocol to exploit. Let's enumerate this service further with another Nmap command. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. and we're going to type in nmap-p, specify port 22, hyphen lowercase s, capital V. That is going to initiate a service scan. And we're going to use a script scan with the directives default safe. That is going to use all of the nmap NSE scripts related to that specific port, which is 22, without using any exploits that could potentially result in a denial of service or other negative unforeseen consequences. So we're going to go ahead and type in the IP address and press enter. Okay, so we've enumerated the version 7.6p1 of OpenSSH. This is not directly exploitable based on any publicly known exploits. So the next step is to try to manually connect to the service. So if you remember, we found something in the banner. Let's just close this real quick and take a look at the banner. So take a look at that. It says, are you sure you want to do this? Log in, start, : here. So I had this theory that maybe start was a username and here's a password. So let's just try that. Clear this out real quick. And I'm just going to SSH using the username start and type in that IP address. So SSH start at IP address. Type in yes. And we are going to use the password here. All right. So now we are in. Let's check out what we can find. I'm just going to go ahead and clear that out and ls the directory. We have two directories here, blue pill and red pill. So I'm going to go to blue pill first. We have a file here called awesome work. I'm just going to see what type of file that is. Text file. So I'm going to cat that. All right. We have a URL here. And reluctant to just go straight to it. So I'm going to make sure that it's safe before we go to it. Just going to copy that. Go over to a web browser, and I'm going to unshorten this link. Because what this is, it's a shortened link. So you have no idea where it's going to lead to. I'm just going to go to unshorten.me. I'm going to plug that right in there and unshorten that link. Okay, looks like the URL is going to be an image or a query in this this website. How do you make a hacker waste time? All right, so that's a safe link to go to. I'm just going to go to it for fun. Yeah. So it's just showing us how to Google how to make a hacker waste time. That's very good. All right, so let's assume that this is a dead end and keep moving on. Just going to clear that out. We're going to go back one directory and go to the red pill directory. We have another text file named "This Will Surely Work." So I'm going to just, all right, we catted that. Step 2 and a password. So maybe that is another account that we can SSH to. Let's try that. Okay, so I'm just going to type Control-Shift-T to create a new tab. I'll make that a little bit bigger, and we're going to try to SSH into that username. It was step 2 and the IP address of Tr0ll3. And I have the password on my clipboard. It was password1 exclamation point right here. And it did not work. So they have trolled us 2 times so far. Let's just go back to our working SSH session. Now we're going to utilize a find command that is going to start in the / or root directory, searching for type F, which stands for files, with permissions of 0777, which is read, write, and execute. It's essentially looking for files that we can access. The dev null here is to suppress errors for a nice clean output. Let's go ahead and press enter and see what we get. All right, as you can see here, we have a .cap file and a .text file. These files could be interesting. We have network traffic in the .cap file and some text in the goldstar.txt file. So let's copy them over to Kali so we can analyze them. For this task, we'll be using Secure Copy or SCP. So I'm just going to create another tab here, and I'm going to type in SCP start at IP address of Tr0ll3:, and I'm going to copy over this file path here. Space dot, that's just going to drop it right in my root home directory. So the password is here. Okay, first one's done. Now let's just do the same exact thing. Start at IP address of Tr0ll3. Then let's copy this giant file path here. Same thing, drop it right here in the home directory. Enter the password again. Very good. So now we have both of the files here in root's home directory. See them right here, goldstar.txt and whiteshadow.cap. Okay, so let's take a look at the text file first. So type in v goldstar.txt. All right, so looks like we have a bunch of strings here. Down here at the bottom, you'll see the amount of lines in the file. So there are over 3 million. That's a password list, possibly of over 3 million passwords here. Let's go ahead and exit out of that. Let's take a look at the packet capture now. So you can use Wireshark if you want, if you're more comfortable with that, but I like using TCP dump. It's a protocol analyzer that is used over the command line. It's useful in situations where you do not have access to the GUI or graphical user interface. Let's say you have hacked a machine, you have SSH access or a reverse shell of some sort, and you can't use Wireshark, obviously, because you don't have a GUI, but you can use TCP dump to sniff their traffic, for example. So anyway, we're going to type in TCP dump -nn TTTTAR. What this does is the NN basically makes it to where the port numbers don't resolve to the names. The TTTT is just changing the time format to a human readable. The capital A is to print ASCII format, and the R is to read the following file. So the file's name was whiteshadow.cap, and I'm going to go ahead and pipe that to less. That's just going to put it in the results from the TCP dump command is going to be piped into less so we can read it easier. Okay, so if you've never seen wireless network traffic before, these are a bunch of deauthentication packets here. All right, so let's go down. Just went all the way down to the end. So what you see here are a bunch of acknowledgements and data IV. So what IV stands for is initialization vector, which is a common number that's used with a secret key for wireless authentication. So what's happening in this PCAP is known as the 802.11 association process, which is required to be carried out before a device can connect to a wireless network. So what we have here is this .cap file with wireless traffic in it and a potential password list. Let's see if we can leverage the Wi-Fi attack tool aircrack-ng to recover any passwords from the captured network traffic. So I'm just going to exit out of this. Now we're going to type aircrack-ng-w. We're going to be specifying the word list, which is the goldstar.txt file. And we are going to specify the packet capture file, which is whiteshadow.cap. Press enter. Let that run. So it's going to take 5 minutes to complete running through this word list. Very good. So after a couple of minutes, we found a key. So logic would tell me, based on the artifacts that we observed in the PCAP and the name of the file, that white shadow would be the username, and this key could be the password for SSH. So let's go ahead and put that theory to the test. I'm going to just create another tab here, and we're going to try to SSH white shadow at IP address of Tr0ll3. And I'm just going to go back here and copy this password. Try that out. Okay, very good. Now we're in with a new user, white shadow. Just going to clear that out. And let's see what we can find in here. All right, so I just ls the home directory. We have this executable called oofun. Let's just run that and see what happens. All right, looks like it's going to scroll. I'm crazy like a lynx. I'm just going to do Control-C to end that. Just clear that. Okay. Let's just quickly run a sudo -l to see if we have any sudo permissions. Supply that password here. Okay, so we have the ability to run nginx start as sudo, as root. All right, so now that we know that we can run nginx start as root, let's try to abuse that to gain privilege escalation to root. So we're going to go to etc nginx, and I'm going to take a look at the sites enabled directory, see if there's, going to check out the default file here. See, this is a configuration file. So the default server configuration. All right, so I see that it is listening on port 8080, and I see this user agent links. So if you recall earlier, when we ran that binary, it said crazy like a lynx over and over. That could be a clue, cluing us in on what we may have to do here. We maybe have to utilize this links service over port 8080 in some way. So let's check that out. Okay, so let's see if the service is actually running. I'm going to type in netstat-antp. Okay, so we do not have a process running over port 8080, but we were told earlier to run a command, sudo service nginx start. Okay, let's just run that again. All right, so now we are listening on port 8080, as you can see right here. All right, so let's just move over to another tab here. And I'm going to see if I can connect to it over links. All right, so simply type links, http:// and the IP address of Tr0ll3 :8080 for the port number. Press enter. All right, so we've connected, and it looks like we have a username and password. So we're going to just copy that, see if we can SSH into that. All right, so SSH, we got the username genflux at IP address of Tr0ll3. I'm just going to copy over that password. All right, we found another legitimate account. So let's just clear that out. Take a look at what we have in here. Okay. So we have a private key. Let's take a look at that, Malius. All right, that looks like an SSH key. Maybe we can use that to further escalate privileges. And I see a file named xlogin as well. So let's focus on this SSH key. I'm just going to copy that. Easier than copying it over. Just copy the text, and I'm going to create a file, SSH key. Just paste that text in there. Save it. Okay, so let's modify the permissions. Just chmod 600 SSH key. And now we're going to try to SSH into the user Malleus with this SSH key. So to do that, we'll type SSH Malleus at IP address of Tr0ll3 -I SSH key. So we're going to be utilizing this private key with the username of Malleus to try to log into Tr0ll3. All right, so we have found yet another user. Okay, so let's see what we have here. We have a file called Don't Even Bother. It's an executable. So let's try. All right, it says enter the password. We do not know what the password is. Try Malleus. All right, so we're going to have to figure out what the password is somehow. So let's analyze the metadata in this file a bit using the strings command. So strings don't even bother. All right. Just going to go up a little bit. So I see here, enter the password, and then it has this string right under enter the password. That could be the password right there. So looks like it. Let me try that out. So let's just execute don't even bother, enter that password, and it says correct password. Your reward is just knowing you did it. So let's save this password. It might be useful for something else later down the road. Okay, so let's take another look here in the directory. We have this file vim info. Let's check that out. Okay. So I see here under registers another potential password. Just going to copy that real quick. So we have two passwords now, one that we found in the binary and one we found in the vim info file. So let's just clear that out real quick. Now let's see if we have any sudo privileges. So just sudo -l. All right, so we have two passwords that we found earlier. It's prompting us for a password here. First one I'm going to try is the one we found in the binary. All right, incorrect password. I'm going to try the other one that we found in vim info. Very good. Okay, so the correct password is the one that starts with capital B that we found in vim info. All right, so let's see what we can do. It says we can run the following commands in Tr0ll3, home, Malleus, don't even bother. So don't even bother was that binary that we just found. So what we can do here is completely remove the binary, make a new one, and use it to spawn a root shell. Since we can do it with sudo, we can run it as root. Therefore, we can escalate our privileges. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. All right, so first I'm going to remove this file. Now I'm going to create a new file, the same name, but .c, because we're going to have to create some source code and then compile it to create the executable. So, okay, we got some weird vim error. Just press enter to continue, it says, so we'll do that. And now I'm going to paste a simple piece of code. What this is going to do is set the group identifier, as you see here, the GID, to 0, and the user identifier, or UID, to 0 as well. 0 stands for root in Linux, and it is going to create a shell. So we have /bin/sh. So let's go ahead and save that. We got this little error here. Just press enter. Don't worry about it. And now we're going to compile our code. So gcc don't even bother.c -o for output. And we're going to name it exactly the same thing. So we can use sudo on this command. Okay, don't worry about those errors. It's to be expected. And now let's use the command sudo. Don't even bother, just like we saw up top. Okay. Very good. As you can see here, we are now logged in as root. And we have access to the flag. Here you go. Now we have successfully completed this challenge. Let's move on to the next one.